Welcome into your PFF Draft Recap, powered by PFF Edge and Elite. Today it's all about the Buffalo Bills, Mike, and have to start with quarterback Josh Allen, their potential franchise QB going forward. They come into the draft with 2 first-round picks, and they move up to number 7 to go get Josh Allen. He was their guy.
Yeah, realistically, none of the other picks that the Bills had in the draft matter unless that pick at number 7, Josh Allen, hits. If he turns out to be a bust, they really don't. It's a failed draft at that point because they're putting all their eggs in the basket of this young man coming out of Wyoming. And there's a lot of good to like. He makes some more special throws than maybe anyone else in this draft class in terms of what he did in 2016 and sometimes in 2017. But he, on the run outside the pocket, can put it on a dime 40 yards downfield the way no one else in this class can at times. But he alternates that with a ton of overthrows, a ton of inaccurate passes to all levels of the field, and just some bad decision-making that the other top guys really didn't have. They really didn't have those sort of negatives like he did.
We went into great depth on Josh Allen, all his positives and negatives on our YouTube channel. You can find the full scouting report, but we're going to try to keep it tight here and describe that skill set that you said, in further detail. Big-time throw percentage. Those are PFF's highest graded throws. He was number 1 in 2016 at 10.6% in the entire nation. So that was when he kind of burst on the scene. It was like, hey, this guy is a player with the size and the arm, and it does show up on the field. Last year he dropped a little bit, only 6.3%. That was 7th in the entire draft class. But you still have those. You have those special throws. You have those big-time plays. And if you just took out his best 10 to 15 plays, you're like, all right, this guy's a first-round pick. But like you said, it's the other stuff. He really struggles in the quick game. You have 3-step drop, just hitting a guy on time and accurately. Really struggles with that. He was one of the worst quarterbacks. He was number 9 out of 10 when we went back in our advanced quarterback charting and just charted accuracy, actual ball location on every single throw. He was 9 out of 10 out of the top draft class quarterbacks. He just misses far too many throws. And even when you just look at his overall grading, just not moving in the right direction. 2016 an 84.7. That was 12th in the draft class. That was pretty solid. Didn't take the step forward in 2017, down to a 73.1. He's just a step below these other first-round quarterbacks when it comes to on-field production.
And the thing I worry about with Allen is we've said he's a guy who needs a lot of development at the pro level. He's not necessarily coming from Wyoming, especially. Hasn't gone to get up against pro competition or better competition. And he's going to a place where they just traded away their franchise left tackle in Corey Glenn. They might have the worst wide receiver core in the NFL there in Buffalo. There's not a lot of help around him, and he might be thrust into that starting job right away. So that development could be a pretty sharp learning curve there for him.
Yeah, and here's the thing that we said about with Allen. We had him as a late first, early second round type of prospect because you could see those tools. You could see the things that you could build around. We talked about the special throws. Also one of the better quarterbacks in the red zone. You could find the full breakdown in our draft guide, which is all part of PFF Edge and Elite. We do break it down every which way. There were just so many question marks, and if you're just putting percentages on his ability to hit as a prospect, it's just lower than the other guys, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, maybe even Lamar Jackson. So being deficient in some areas that don't always improve, and that's accuracy, that's decision-making, the most important parts of quarterbacking, that is what is risky. But I understand the tantalizing arm and athleticism, what he does outside the pocket, and some of the special throws he can make.
Yeah, they really have to. You have to form that offense around him in terms of utilizing that athleticism, utilizing his ability to get out of the pocket. But I do worry about, like I said, the transition with the talent he has there in Buffalo. It just could be rough.
I'll give you one more number, Bills fans, that you can maybe hang your hat on. The part where he was a little bit better than average was the vertical throws. So when we did chart that ball location, where did he put it? He was actually number 4 in the class on vertical lead throws. Those are your posts, your seams. So it's going to be all about managing that skill set and let him throw the ball vertically and understand, the best case scenario might be a guy that takes those chances down the field. He's going to miss some of the easy throws. Maybe he's only a 55 to 58 completion percentage type of guy, but if he's a 7.5 yards per attempt type of guy in a given year, which is really, really good, creating chunk plays, even though you're missing some, then maybe you can create some offense around that skill set. But just a lot of question marks with Josh Allen at this point in his development. The second first-round pick, they come up to 16 to go get Tremaine Edmonds, linebacker out of Virginia Tech. And there's some question marks there, but overall, a very good athlete, still very young. You have to always say that he's 19 years old.
Yes, you have to say 19-year-old.
Obligated to say it, right? 6'5", 250. Looks like an edge rusher, but he's a natural, traditional linebacker in this scheme for the Bills.
Yeah, it's an interesting fit for me because while linebacker was a huge need there, they lost Preston Brown, their only starting linebacker from a season ago, he went on to Cincinnati, and they really didn't have anyone else besides him. So it was a huge need. But in that zone-heavy scheme that Buffalo runs, I'm not sure the athletic freakiness of Tremaine Edmonds necessarily fits in the zone scheme. He was a guy who I hope went to a man scheme because he looked much more natural when he was locked in one-on-one on a receiver, on a tight end, or on a running back. When he had to play in zone coverage, that's when sort of that, the fact that he was 19 years old, the fact that he hasn't been playing football as long as these other guys sort of showed, and his instincts in that zone coverage were just not as good as other guys in this draft class. So that'll be interesting to see how he fits in there right away.
Yeah, I mean, he had some of those question marks in the run game as well. So general ability to just read and diagnose plays, taking the wrong gap a lot of times in the run game, taking on the gap with the wrong shoulder. We saw plenty of that on film. But overall, again, productive. More good than bad when it comes to Edmonds. And we'll see how he does in that zone-heavy scheme. I do think they envision him with that length, though, patrolling the middle of the field like they had with Luke Kuechly, the same system in Carolina. Different types of players. But if you have a guy with Edmonds' size patrolling the middle of the field in that scheme,
I can see.
Windows.
It just cuts down the windows over the top of in that secondary.
That really makes it difficult on opposing quarterbacks. So I could see what they saw, at least in Edmonds, in that scheme. Let's jump to the third round. Harrison Phillips, interior defensive lineman out of Stanford. I've seen some comps to Kyle Williams. I'm not ready to go there just yet. Kyle Williams, if you guys have PFF Elite, go check out Premium Stats and check out Kyle Williams' career as a pass rusher and a run defender. One of the most disruptive players in the entire NFL. Harrison Phillips, a run-first type of player, which is okay, but I don't think he's going to get after the quarterback the same way a guy like Kyle Williams did during his career.
It just doesn't have near the explosive first step that someone like Kyle Williams does. He is not that type of player. He's a guy who controls blockers rather than explodes through them. He's not a line of scrimmage mover, and that's why you see there he had 46 run stops because he's so good at shedding offensive linemen and finishing on plays. He has that sort of length and the strength to do it, but not necessarily explosiveness. That sort of run-stopping prowess did not translate to the passing game.
Yeah, 90.2 run defense grade last year, so one of the best in the entire draft class at taking on blocks, beating blocks, as you said. 82.9 pass rush grade and only a 6.4 pass rush productivity. That was number 53 in the entire draft class, but he was number 1 in run stop percentage at 13.3. So again, all the numbers point toward him being a very good run defender, which is okay for Buffalo. I mean, they got gashed last year.
I mean, you need it.
They got gashed last year on the ground, but a guy that we saw still is more of maybe a 4th or 5th round type of pick just because he's not necessarily affecting the pass game. Go to the 5th round. They had a couple picks, but the one that really stood out for us, Wyatt Teller, the guard out of Virginia Tech. We had him as more of a 2nd round type of player out of Virginia Tech. 4 outstanding years of grading and pass blocking, run blocking. He does it all and brings that mean streak to the table.
Yeah, one of my favorite players to watch in this draft class. We think he got a steal there in the 5th because he is just fantastic as a road grader in the running game. You see here a clip from the Senior Bowl where he pulls out to the left side of the formation and just takes the guy off the line of scrimmage. And that was consistent with him there at Virginia Tech, taking guys off the line of scrimmage, whether it be defensive tackles or linebackers. He can do them both. A very powerful man. Not as good in pass protection, but still could hold his own, as you see here in the clip against Jalen Holmes at the Senior Bowl. Did fairly well there in pass pro. So I'm a big fan of his. I don't know why necessarily he fell. I know he fell out of favor with the Virginia Tech coaching staff there a little bit, took a little bit of a step back as a senior, got benched at times for some maybe attitude problems, but I think, like I said, they got a steal there in the 5th.
On-field production, though, between 86 and 89.3 every single year. We didn't really see that type of production from a year 1 to 4, from a guard in the entire draft class. So when you're talking about a 5th round pick, certainly worth a shot. And given the Bills' offensive line situation, he could be a starter right away. So we really love that Wyatt Teller pick. So there you have it, your Buffalo Bills PFF draft recap. It's all been powered by PFF Edge and Elite.